Gordon Blossom is not the average hunter.
I always said, well, I'm growing old. Now I changed that. I am old.
He's nearly 104, and he's been hunting for almost a century. He says he loves the outdoors.
I think I was 10 years old when my folks bought me a .22 single shot.
He says the shells for the gun cost about 15 cents at the time.
In those days, a dime would get you a pretty good meal.
So his parents made him work for the money.
I think it was 5 rabbits that I had to get with each box of shells before they'd give me 15 cents to get another box.
Ever since then, Gordon has been hunting and achieving the goals he sets for himself. He has shot 3 elk in the last 4 years.
I just love to hunt.
I asked him why he loves it so much.
Seems like every time you go, there's something unexpected or something that makes you feel good.
Gordon says he loves life.
That's it.
And looks forward to each day.
It's just nice to be alive.
He says the secret to living a long life is having good friends.
Make friends and have friends. And once you get a friend, keep them.
In Thorpe, Madison Brown, Action News.
People who live in this apartment complex tell me a loud ripping sound woke them up early this morning. One woman described it as sounding like a tornado. Well, that sound was this tree falling down and knocking into this apartment complex while people were inside.
And it was a big crash that landed up with the tree on top of the roof.
Maria Sanchez says she called for help and went to check on her neighbors.
I was good, but they were trapped in.
The woman who lives in this apartment says her husband had to squeeze through this way to get out and get to work. Sanchez says maintenance crews arrived in the morning to move the tree trunk and clear some of the debris.
I never thought the wind was that strong to where it lifted up the whole trunk.
Both women say they're worried that won't be the only tree to fall.
I'm just glad that it didn't hit through the roof because my bed was right there. So if it would have landed, I probably would have been the one to get hurt.
They say they hope the owner decides to remove the other old large trees.
You just never know in life and what's going to happen. And so you just take precautions.
Maintenance crews tell me the cleanup efforts are going to take all day long today. They say their main goal for today is just to clean up these pathways and make sure people can access their homes. They say that could take some more time tomorrow as well. In Yakima, Madison Brown, Action News.
7 days a week, you can take a bar class here at Inner Balance. And bar instructor Taylor Walker-Sinning says it's a great way to work out, especially for the ladies.
Women really love this type of exercise because it targets every area that we want. Our arms, our inner and outer thighs, our core, and our seats, and it's a lot of fun to do.
And don't worry about bar being boring, because the classes are all about variety.
I've been working out, utilizing bar 3 times a week for about 4 years, and it challenges me every single time. Why? Because it's constantly changing. You target all those areas in different ways, and I never leave without feeling worked over from head to toe.
But who says the ladies get to have all the fun? Bar is great for guys too. Although I think I just pulled something.
I love having the guys in class. They're used to using those major muscle groups, but those minor muscle groups rarely get used. So there's going to be a lot of shaking, a lot of sweat, and they might be a little bit overworked, but you know what? I love having them in class.
And just to be clear, while bar features ballet-type moves and to bar, this is not a ballet class.
This isn't your traditional ballet class. There's going to be yoga moves, there might be some Pilates movement, and there will be ballet-inspired moves like a plie, which is really like a deep squat, but you're going to build long, lean muscles like a ballerina, and that's really what we want out of this class.
To take a bar class at Inner Balance, head to innerbalancemindbody.com. They even have a retreat to Costa Rica planned, and you can find out about that on the website.
Since early on in the coronavirus pandemic, health officials have stressed the fact that people older than 60 have a higher risk for complications related to COVID-19. In our community, people ages 60 and older make up 16% of the total number of cases, but account for more than 85% of our county's virus death toll. Meanwhile, the people who are spreading it are below the age of 30 and make up 35% of the cases in our valley.
So there's a concern that, of course, as the younger you are, you may not feel that COVID-19 may impact you as strongly as others.
And when you add in people between 30 and 39 years old, those younger age groups make up 54% of total cases.
There is the possibility that you might infect someone who may be part of that high-risk group of getting more severe infections.
The health district says most people who get the virus will get a mild case, but you can spread it even if you don't have symptoms. No minors in our valley have lost their lives to the virus, but one person between 20 and 29 has died, and 4 more people between the ages of 30 and 39 have passed away.
It's not just about you as an individual, but it's about our community as a whole.
In Yakima, Madison Brown, Action News. Governor Inslee approved Yakima County for Phase 2 of his Safe Start reopening plan on October 13th. Starting at 12:01 a.m. Tuesday, November 17th, the entire state will have to follow new restrictions.
We are today in a more dangerous position than we were in March.
For Yakima County, that means big changes to a lot of activities. For instance, in Phase 2, you could go to bars and restaurants and have your food and drink inside. Starting Wednesday, November 18th, restaurants and bars will be closed for indoor dining. Takeout and outdoor dining will still be allowed, but it is getting cold outside. Also in Phase 2, indoor fitness was allowed at a limited capacity. Starting tomorrow, gyms will have to close and fitness activities will have to move outside. Movie theaters and bowling alleys just opened up last month and will have to shut their doors again tomorrow. Retail shopping will be limited to 25% capacity, open houses won't be allowed in real estate anymore, and hair salons, barbershops, and other personal services will go from 50% capacity to 25%. In Phase 2, you could gather with up to 5 people outside your household each week. Starting Tuesday, those same gatherings are only permitted outdoors, or after a 2-week quarantine or 1-week quarantine with a negative COVID test. Religious services, weddings, and funerals can still follow Phase 2 guidelines. An online appointment, a quick temperature check because of coronavirus, and a few health questions.
Have a seat right here.
That's about all it took before I was in this chair getting ready to give a pint of blood. I laid back, squeezed this COVID-safe stress ball to get my blood flowing, and that's it. A pint of blood went from my arm into this bag and these test tubes. And less than 12 hours later, it was making its way to Portland. By the next morning, my blood and I had both arrived at the American Red Cross Blood Processing Center. Each blood donation can save up to 3 lives, but the people who work here are the ones who make that possible.
I think a lot of what we do here, folks don't really know.
All the blood donated in our region comes here. So the blood I donated is just one of about 700 daily donations they process at this lab. People like Nancy here unbox it, look at the paperwork, and scan it into the computer. Next, the blood goes into this centrifuge. It spins at a certain time, speed, and temperature to separate the plasma from the blood. To be able to save up to 3 lives, donations get split up into 3 different blood products: red cells, plasma, and something called cryoprecipitate. Once removed from the centrifuge, the plasma sits at the top of the bag. Ebony presses the plasma into its own separate bag. Now, my single donation went from whole blood to red cells and plasma.
So these are my red blood cells. Right now they're being filtered through here. So this is a filter right here.
The filtering removes white cells and leaves a pure red cell product. And then it gets stored until test results come back. The test tubes they took at the donation center get sent to a testing center in Dallas, and they send the results here to approve or reject each donation. Remember those questions I had to answer at the donation center?
It's very important to answer those questions correctly. It just saves time down the line.
Over here, Ivan is scanning my plasma. Then he freezes it and it goes into storage at -22 degrees Fahrenheit. The third blood product that comes from a donation is cryoprecipitate. It helps with clotting and gets separated from frozen plasma in another centrifuge. Once the test results come back from Dallas, blood moves from the components department to the quarantine and labeling department. Michaela here marks the blood type on each bag. My blood type is AB positive, which means the red cells can go to anyone with that same blood type, but my plasma can go to anyone. The labeled bags get organized by blood type and expiration date. Yes, blood has a shelf life. Red cells are only good for 42 days. Hospitals then request what they need, and blood gets sent from here to 70 hospitals across Washington and Oregon.
It's so important to continue to keep that blood coming in and making sure that our hospitals and our patients have that blood available.
The processing center is a 24/7 operation, so once all that happens, the process starts over. Because the need for blood is constant and there's no substitute.
The need for blood happens every day, and I think sometimes that is, I don't often think that people think of that on a regular basis.
Some people say CBD has changed their lives and cured things like anxiety, chronic pain, and more. But is it fact or fad? A KIMA special report tonight looking into how some are passing on their prescriptions for serious diseases to take CBD instead. Is it safe? Reporter Madison Brown joins us now in studio. So Madison, what are the experts saying about this?
Jake, it really varies. I spoke to one doctor who says she's seen positive results in her patients who use it, but others say they're not quite sold on it yet, especially since it's only been legal for a short time and there isn't a lot of research or regulations.
I've been back on it again for a couple weeks.
Local rock radio host Todd Lyons has struggled with anxiety for years. His palms sweat, he has trouble sleeping, and he's tried almost everything to help him cope.
I was prescribed, pharmaceutical drugs, psychotropic drugs, and I won't say that they didn't work for a while. I mean, it helped, but after just even a few months on them, I started having really goofy side effects, and it creeped me out.
Lyons decided he needed an alternative to prescription drugs. So he stopped taking those drugs and switched them for CBD. And he's not the only one.
Many people are starting to ditch their old supplements and medicines for things like sleep, pain, and anxiety. And they're making the switch to something that some people say cures all of that.
Suffering from anxiety and high blood pressure, when I take it, it makes all the difference in the world.
CBD is a chemical found in hemp without the psychoactive effects that produce a high. It's risen in popularity in recent years and become a huge moneymaker for local business, as Washington State has loosened hemp laws and CBD hemp oil became legal under the Farm Bill. Supporters say it helps with many ailments.
Pain, arthritis, anxiety, just different fibromyalgia, different little things that they're trying to alleviate sleep.
But some doctors aren't so sure.
It's hard for me to know if that's really helping them or is it a placebo effect.
Dr. Tanny Davenport says he wouldn't recommend CBD to patients because he doesn't see the research to back up many supporters' claims.
A lot of the things that you think it's useful for, it may be beneficial, but I don't have any controlled studies that show it actually is effective.
Mary Vandegraff used to own a marijuana dispensary, but switched over to a health food store with CBD products after she noticed more and more customers asking for CBD without the THC component found in marijuana.
Just takes the edge off.
For Lyons, CBD got him off of his prescription anxiety medication. But CBD isn't legally a medicine and it's not regulated like one. It's a supplement, like vitamin C. So you don't need a prescription from a doctor to use it, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't talk with one first.
Never go off your meds without making sure with your doctor.
CBD with less than 0.3% of THC, which isn't enough to get you high, is something anyone can get, even a child, without a doctor's prescription. But some doctors do recommend it to patients. Naturopathic Dr. Joy Nauman says she sees positive results in almost all of her patients who take it. But even with the results she's witnessed,
I don't think it's the magic bullet.
Some people may see the results they want, while others don't see a difference at all.
I would not tell anyone who's doing fairly fine that CBD is the answer to their problems. If you're having some problem with anxiety, depression, insomnia, pain, or other things, spend the money, go see your doctor, and see if there's things that have been proven to help you that you can get.
Tomorrow, I look at how some CBD products may not be what they say they are. And without FDA approval and testing, the label on the bottle isn't always accurate. Jake?
All right, definitely some big question marks about the products there. Thank you very much, Madison.
Jake, I spoke with an inmate who actually got moved to another facility today, but while he was inside, he told me there was not enough room for social distancing, not enough cleaning supplies, and not enough protective gear. He says he and other inmates are scared and they want something to change.
Run, homies, run!
On March 23rd, 14 inmates broke out of the Yakima County Jail. The reason they gave for escaping? They say they were scared of coronavirus. Another inmate who did not escape wrote me a letter saying the fear inside is as widespread as the virus is outside.
I feel like we're living in fear because of what's going on.
Governor Inslee says the state is trying to help people who are incarcerated during the pandemic.
We encourage all jails to follow good guidelines of the CDC. There are national guidelines about trying to provide as much protection.
I spoke with Yakima inmate David Freiberg, who tells me most of those guidelines are not possible inside the Yakima County Jail and are not happening.
I know that they're saying that we're refusing to social distance, but that's not true whatsoever.
He says 74 inmates are in each unit and bunks are less than 6 feet apart.
With the current population in this jail, there's no possible way to quarantine this facility.
David's mom, Melanie, tells me she was concerned about her son being in close contact with the other inmates.
He tells me like how many guys are in the unit and how close they are. And it's just like, it's really scary because if somebody has it, you know, not only my son, but other inmates can get it.
David, who worked in maintenance, said he feared he would be exposed to the virus when he was just doing his job.
We get close, but we're not being provided with masks.
And he was concerned about other workers, people who worked in the kitchen, for example.
They're serving about 2,000 trays for every unit in the jail. So that's possibly putting at risk every unit in the whole jail right there.
He says he worried about what would happen if he did get sick.
A lot of times there's workers that are trying to call in sick because they're feeling sick and they're being forced to go to work.
We spoke on the phone, so I asked David if the phones were sanitized and if they had access to cleaning supplies. He said they tried to disinfect things as much as they could, but the supplies were low.
All the supplies that we're getting right now, they're pretty diluted because they're running pretty low on the supplies.
Of course, cleaning products are hard to come by and there are shortages of personal protective gear everywhere. But David's mom says she worried while her son was in jail because she couldn't do anything to help him.
Your hands are tied. All you can do is call them and wish them the best, but you can't do anything else. Nothing.
David suggested to me releasing nonviolent criminals as part of a solution. Governor Inslee does plan to release about 950 people from prison systems throughout our state. I have reached out to the Yakima Department of Corrections every day this week since Tuesday, but I haven't yet talked with anyone who's available to comment on the conditions in this jail or on whether or not anyone will be released in Yakima. Live in Yakima, I'm Madison Brown, Action News.